Ridley Scott finally gave us something new. Let's talk about The Martian. How much fun was this movie? Zoe.
I could talk
Zoe,
now.
yes,
Yeah,
please.
you can start. You're a guest, yes.
Oh my gosh! I'm trying really hard not to give away spoilers. But oh my gosh, I loved it. Okay.
I think actually, you know what? We will give the spoiler finger or sign or
thank
whatever,
goodness.
and we'll actually talk because I have a lot to say about the movie as well, and I know Rob does for sure. And I'd really like it if we could actually talk freely and not try to preserve anybody's feelings in here. I mean, as much as you hate spoilers, Rob,
It's not that I
that's a
dislike spoilers.
foreshadowing.
What?
There'll be a segment
it'll all
later.
become
where-
clear
yeah,
soon.
you'll see.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, what did you guys think? I don't know.
He
Phenomenal.
was a botanist. I was a botanist. I started
right?
out as a botanist. I love botany. That made me so happy.
How authentic was it?
Well, they didn't go into that much detail, really. But
No.
He made potatoes.
with his own shit.
but the thing I liked about it was he used the shit. Needs to be. It was cool because he's like he packaged it so it seemed all legitimate, and then he like I mean I don't know how accurate the whole like actually growing it, but whatever. It was a while, so that made like the soils, but whatever. I don't care. Besides the point, they showed it enough to seem legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
I was cool with it. And then the part I liked is when the thing blew in and like it's all dead. They didn't
depressurization.
Yeah, they didn't try and say, oh, but then he had more shit and could do it again. You
No,
know?
Oh
So
no, everything
completely
was ruined
ruined,
and done.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
cried when I saw the
I
plants
know.
were frozen.
I know. I was like, no. I was so scared he was gonna die.
That was what was so good about it.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I liked that they didn't try to be like, oh, but it's okay because I could redo it. You know?
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
Oh no, all the tension would have been lost if they
Yeah.
had done that. If they just could correct the mistake immediately.
Yeah,
it
but a
would
lot
have
of
been-
things do that. So I was happy that they didn't try and like, yeah.
They did good with that. I loved all of the supporting cast. Mackenzie Davis, I like from *Halt and Catch Fire* anyway.
Oh my gosh, yes.
She's so wonderful.
And she's still nerdy here, so I'm just like, I'm still in love
All of
with
them
you.
were. Kristen
I'm
Wiig.
still in love with
I
you.
mean, she was
Anyway.
a little bit of a talking head, maybe, but I still thought she was really good for her role. Jeff Daniels, I think all of us probably like him a lot. I thought he was great as the director of NASA. I might have mixed it up. Who was the other bigwig from NASA that appeared on the screen along with him?
Oh gosh, there's so many. Sean Bean was there.
Sean
He was
Bean.
the,
I might have done him.
Yeah.
I might have
He
done him as the
did
And
director.
it's like the first movie I've seen where he lives.
He didn't die.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like actually, if you were going to summarize The Martian, is the rousing tale of a movie that Sean Bean stars in, where he actually survives to the very end, and he's happy and he's playing golf. I mean, you don't have to say anything else. You know what? There was some stuff on Mars. They had some ships. Whatever.
It almost
Sean
makes
Bean,
up for losing his head.
Yeah, exactly. Several times.
But you know what? That was actually on Twitter, on the Twitterverse. That was the first thing they said. They're like, Sean Bean lives, and then people were like, spoilers, and he's like, dudes, okay, if you're saying spoilers at that, you haven't seen you don't even have you seen the trailer? Like,
It would be weird if no character that had left Earth died somehow during the course of the picture.
Just some guys on Earth. They get random car accident. They just include that in the movie. Everybody's
Yeah.
like struggling for their lives out in space, and this guy's like, "Oh, I got killed by a Slurpee at 7-Eleven." Yeah, it's like,
Oh, God.
I don't know.
that would have been awesome. Actually,
Yeah.
I would have been
They
like,
should-
okay,
yeah.
that's legitimate.
That would have
if,
been
if
good.
it was a different director, they could probably get away with something
Yeah,
like that.
Ridley
like-
Scott's not going to try that anytime
He's
soon,
not
I
that
don't
guy.
think. I thought all of the set pieces were really well designed. I'm trying to figure out how they did it. They obviously didn't film on Mars.
No
Do we even-
shit. I thought that
It's a documentary too.
Yes!
Do we even know how?
Well, I don't know, because
done it?
there is another film that took place on Mars that perhaps you remember, named John Carter. And in John Carter, they just filmed it all in the desert out in Arizona.
They probably
And,
did something
That
similar.
was the surface of Mars. And when he was bumming around in his little buggy, I noticed like certain parts that were like, this looks very similar to what I saw in that movie. But
And
I
then they
don't
just
know,
mapped
yeah.
the screen or whatever.
I guess,
to bring the
yeah,
red
I don't
out
know. They
and
could have
change
done it
the
that way.
atmosphere.
Like, I'd have to read
Yeah.
it a little bit more. But
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, like a lot of people on the internet were like saying that this was like the most inspirational experience of their lives, and they thought that it was like so great. I didn't feel it that hard, I guess.
No?
Compared, no,
No.
you know, like okay, so you know, Rob knows this because he talks to me all the time in the office. But I have a fear of being out in space. It's completely irrational because it's not
Yeah.
something that will ever happen to me in my lifetime. I'm sure.
You never know.
Well, I
I'm
hope.
hoping.
Yeah, maybe I have to evacuate Earth for some reason. I don't know, because the Slurpee incident, whatever. But watching that film was always going to be an uncomfortable experience for me because I'm like, oh my god, he's in space. There's no way of getting home. What's going to happen? And I was kind of tense from that. But in terms of like being inspired by the progress, I mean, I don't know. Everything seems so abrupt, and they didn't spend a lot of time introducing you to any of the cast. Like literally within the first 2 minutes, he's stranded on Mars, and then the rest of the movie just kind of runs from there. Which I mean is pretty cool, but it didn't let me kind of attach myself to any one of the characters. I just sat him in my chair going, they're in space, like just being really paranoid about things. And but I didn't find it super inspiring. I found it I was relieved when he was able to get off or whatever. And despite Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of blowing one of the major plot points in the movie on Twitter, I still really enjoyed it. Like I thought it was a really well made film. I mean, there was a certain element of this is Fuck Yeah Science, the Facebook page, the movie in this, I find, because they kind of just gloss over big chunks of things, where it's just like, science, yeah! Like, it almost felt like a TED Talk in some ways, and I'm totally cribbing this from a guy that I know on Facebook who made this observation, by the way, but I thought it was kind of accurate.
It's accurate.
Yeah, like where basically they give you just enough to kind of give you that enthusiasm, but at the end of the movie you're like, that was great, I'm going to go back home and take a month off work to play Fallout 4 this month. Like, there was no direct inspiration for me to be like, I should be like more into science or anything after I watched it. Yeah, which I mean, it's just fine, I guess. But it just like after hearing some people talk about it, I read the review on Birth Movies Death, that website, and he just gushed about it. The reviewer on that, and he was like, oh my god, people were like on the edge of their seats and they were crying at the end, and I'm like, I didn't feel that. I didn't get there.
No, I wasn't quite there. But I still thought it was great. The relationships with his other crewmates, I thought it was very cool that you kind of had to infer what their relationships were like based on what was left behind by the other crew members. The disco music.
Fuck the disco music.
That was really funny. I'm trying to think of some other examples that the artifacts that were left behind by his other crewmates.
The cross.
The cross, yeah. And all that stuff I thought was super cool for helping flesh out what the relationship was like, even though they weren't physically present with each other for 90% of the running time, 95% of the running time.
I did have a note on the whole him being stuck in space thing. I loved how his personality was. Because if you're alone on a fucking planet all the fucking way out there, you're going to get depressed.
Yeah.
You're going to be horrible. You're going to be like, fuck, I'm dying. And the thing is, the character that they had, he was just a positive guy. And he was like, you have to think about astronauts. They're superheroes. Like, they're healthy, they're intelligent, they're everything that somebody that wants to make a superhuman race that I don't want to say because it totally brings out that's what he would want because they're awesome. And so that was really nice because they kept him positive enough because he's like, I'm actually going to die, but at least I've got, this or something. Or when he ran out of ketchup, he's like, I'm going to dip this in Vicodin because fuck that,
So why wouldn't I do exactly that?
Yeah.
I think a big part of that is whenever you hear stories about people presented with a survival situation, and we've even seen it depicted in other films, if you don't believe that you're going to get out of this alive, you're not going to.
No, and
you
that's
have no chance.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like they did really well on the character because if he ever varied a little bit, you were like, oh no, he would die by then.
Absolutely
well, yeah,
true.
he kept the instinct, but there were little subtle things thrown into the movie that showed you kind of his mood when things were tough. Like when the decompression issue happens and he finally gets it all back together and he just kind of like has a little fit or whatever at the end. Just it's not even like a long thing. It's like maybe 5 seconds where he just like he gets really frustrated and he lets it all out that this has all happened, but then he kind of moves on and he goes. But they give you and then if you watch his face in some of the scenes, there are times when he just acts that where he's just like you can tell that he's really like, oh god, I can't believe that this is a thing, and then he steals up and then he goes on his way to kind of solve the problem or whatever he's working on. Yeah, so I can't believe how much money that we spent rescuing Matt Damon over the course of like how many years of movies now.
Worth it.
It's totally worth it.
Totally worth it.
We sent an entire platoon back in World War II to rescue him, and then we sent humanity's last hope at finding a habitable world out to rescue him in Interstellar, and now we spent, I don't even know how much that would have cost to send like a ship to Earth, back and Earth, and then back to grab him again in this movie. It has to be about $3 billion. I don't know, but
more than that.
Yeah, it has to be way more than that.
Talk to the Asians. China? Was it China?
It was
China actually put their rocket up. Yeah. They had to actually. Yeah, we had to bring in help from like other countries this time.
If it had been anyone else, they wouldn't have bothered. Like,
yeah,
but
it's
Crispin Glover. Fuck it.
Crispin Glover, your ass is lost in space forever.
Forever. It's over. I think you have to save him. Matt Damon was so strong. You talk about those points in the movie where you could see on his face and read off of his face what was
Yeah.
happening. I understand one of the more difficult challenges for an actor is acting without anyone else present in the scenes that you're doing. It's just you. And I think that's really what helped bring all of his scenes to life as well as it did. The fact that he was able to subtly communicate without being overt. And the success or failure of the movie probably hinged on that for its
Oh, yeah.
believability.
I agree
Oh, yeah.
for sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. I'd have a very hard time now that I've seen it picturing anybody else in the role. Like, I think he
I
did
would
that
be
good of a
inclined to agree.
job. Yeah. Like, I honestly, because there's a lot of actors maybe that could have been in that, but I don't know. Like, that the performance was really subtle. Like, it wasn't like over the top. Like, his attitude was over the top. Like you
Yeah,
said, like
yeah,
he was like
yeah.
super
Fuck
positive.
yeah, science!
Yeah, but he was
Yeah.
like you
That was
you
it.
would expect, like you said,
You have
that
to keep
because
yourself
he was an
pumped.
astronaut, he was trained to kind of think that way because
Yeah.
that's part of their
Yeah.
thing is like you're there to solve problems and everything can go wrong. And he even says it at the end of the movie.
Yeah, I
He's
was gonna
like,
say,
he
in
has
his
his little
talk.
lecture when he's talking with the students. He's like, you know what, it will all go wrong,
And you will die.
and you will die unless you actually are, and you can accept that or you can start solving the problems. And I think that's awesome. I mean, that's like the 2015 version of Flynn in the Tron movie where he says there are no
yes.
problems, only solutions. It's all about the positive problem solving.
Similar to her, the other thing I liked a lot about The Martian was how it felt that it was just in the not too distant future from now, that it was very close to where we are currently. Part of that was NASA's contributions with tech specs and ideas that they are currently working on,
And Cisco.
and Cisco.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, every time that there was like a
know!
webcam
That's
or
right.
whatever,
I
there was
was
like a
so,
Cisco
like,
thing in the
fan,
window.
like, oh, I was like, hire me, please.
Yeah, I'll go to
anyway.
NASA. I will be a NASA employee for you.
It makes sense to send pre-supplies before the mission takes place.
Yeah.
Stuff I never would have thought of, but I thought was
Yeah.
very cool.
I loved it.
The exit craft that was present on the surface of
Yeah, that was
of Mars
yeah.
already. I
Yeah.
don't remember how far away it was now, but all that was so ingenious. Even the rover that he drove is a prototype that they had designs for. They built to
Oh,
help.
wow.
Oh
to
gosh,
film.
I loved the I don't remember how he said it, but he's like I have all the geniuses of the world, and their solution is to jump on the roof.
Jump on the roof.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
drill holes in the roof and jump,
Jump.
on it.
Of course, and then of course the match edit with the tech going
Yeah,
through the roof,
yeah.
and then him going
Going
through the
through the
roof.
roof. I love that.
Yeah, it's the easiest gag to make, but it's funny and effective
Yeah, it was
every time.
totally,
I love
yeah.
it.
Totally.
Yeah, and the director's role was actually quite challenging as well because you could actually believe that he had to be that middle of the road guy, and for different reasons. Like you kind of want to hate him, like because he's like being very stingy with the money, and he's not easy to deal with, and he doesn't
Yeah.
really like people, and he fires Sean Bean. He doesn't kill him though, so that's good. But yeah,
could have. We didn't
he
see
could
the
have.
full
Maybe he comes into the golf course later. You know what? You embarrassed me from NASA.
Did you get a sense of Capricorn 1 when you were watching it?
Sort of, yeah. Like, yeah. Now that you mention it, holy crap, yeah. I would never even thought about that. But
It
you're
occurred
totally
to me
right.
briefly when Jeff
Yeah.
Daniels made comment of it. Is it a film you're familiar with?
No.
This was a faked landing that took place on Mars. It was a movie from the 70s. Was it the Mars or the Moon?
I think it was the moon.
And they plot to, because it doesn't work out, because they need to sell it, they plot to kill the astronauts to cover it all up.
Oh yeah, okay.
So when they talked about having to leave Matt Damon there, and it's just like, well, he might be dead by the time we get to him, and then they never mention it to the general public, right away
Yeah.
I thought of Capricorn 1.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have made for a much darker movie. But I'm glad that they didn't go that way. Like, because it
was better
basically,
this
because you
way.
can believe that he had a lot of pressure on him as the director to kind of, make sure that NASA funding would be continued, but also, try to help out as much as he could to do stuff. So I mean, I was conflicted in liking him, but I ended up liking that character in the end or whatever. But,
And even though it cribbed heavily from Apollo 13
Yeah.
and Gravity, it
Well,
still
I think-
felt like its own unique
I was gonna
film
say,
to
like,
me.
yeah, we've had a million films that have had elements of this, but
Yeah.
not that prolonged tension. At least for me, anyways, because
I
like until he actually gets out of his pod and gets into the bigger ship or whatever near the
Oh
end.
my gosh, and
I
the
was like,
process
I was
and the-
dying that entire time, and then after that happened, I was like, whoa. Okay, fine. How were the crowds in your screening?
We went to the VIP theater on the Saturday,
Okay.
and they were. Oh, you could hear a pin drop. There was
Oh, yeah.
no
Wow.
noise. The only problem I had was a woman that was behind me in the theater that laughed at every single fucking thing that came out of Matt Damon's mouth.
Really?
Even trying. Oh, everything she thought was funny.
Oh, she probably is. She's gonna be his future wife.
Oh,
I mean,
maybe.
clearly.
Mike, any final recommendations or thoughts for us?
I would say go see it. Like, if you have a chance to see it in theaters, definitely the better experience. I couldn't do it in IMAX because I'm too chicken shit about being out in space. But I have heard that it's probably the better way to go see it, so maybe go do that.
I saw it in 3D. I didn't see it in IMAX just because I went to opening night and that was what was available. My advice, go pee before you watch it. Don't drink tea, especially if you go to VIP, because you can have tea there. But anyway, don't drink tea and get a lot of popcorn because it's fucking amazing. Anyway.
I loved it too. 3D is definitely worthwhile for this picture. Any of you that know me know that I generally despise 3D. Not for this one. Well worth it. Go see it.
Nice.